Last week we I didn't have a chance to finish, so I just will briefly go over what we spoke because it's so important. And I think in English you say, with all due respect to the Rabbi who was here last week, and a little bit unfair to challenge him because I saw he didn't, and I say in English, he wasn't engrossed in the whole thing, but with great, I am not afraid to be challenged ever. So, but I looked at the time today and I looked it over again. If you look in the Rav's words, let me just say let me go back again. The question, Shin Ches Nun Dalet. The question really was if you're allowed to open a soda bottle, taking off the cap. And I said, and I still stick to my Seven Shabbos, if you do it, I say Yechayev Chatas. And not me, it's the Rav. And he tried to explain that it's two things he tried to say. This is very temporarily, tried to explain. Well, that is not a good excuse because everyone agrees you're not allowed to cut silver foil just for Shabbos. Let's say I want to put away a piece of meat. I want to cut the silver foil just to Motzei Shabbos. Everyone agrees it's also. We all agree you cannot cut toilet paper just to use it. It's a tikkumana. So that's our argument. He tried to say it's not an argument. He tried to explain that this halacha, what says over here, Nun Dalet, is talking about a vine that was not usable. But if you look in the Rav's words, it's really Rashi's words, it's very clear that it's usable. Zemoira shesh beroisha ekmumis. You see Nun Dalet, it's page. You have a copy? What was I saying? Oh, actually, you look in the words. You look in the words of the Rav. It says, let me go back. He's talking about a zmoira, a vine. You see the words of Nun Dalet. That's page Tuf Nun Ches. Tuf Nun. It says vine. Sheyesh beroisha kmimis ken mizlik. It's like a hook. Sheru elitu deli lamalasbo. You could. It's good. So good, we'll do a good job. He tried to argue that it was not usable. He made it to use it. It said it's good, it's usable. Shechoshev aleh meir shal malal b'shavos. Afe beken says the Rav usa malas boy elikim hoisik shiri b'dli meir unless you tied it. Why? Gzeira maybe shteiru chaloi maybe too long. Viktamenu and he'll snap off a piece. So you see, if it's a usable vine. And it's a good hook, and it's usable, and I thought about using it. Don't do it if it's not tied, because if you will, you might snap off a small piece. And that's an incredible chiddush to make it more comfortable. That itself makes it already a chiv chatas. It's really frightening, but that's what it says over here. So that, by snapping off a piece makes it more comfortable. So a soda bottle, when you snap off the bottle, the cap, right now, as you ripped it off the top from the bottom, it became a comfortable, good cover for the next day or next hour. It doesn't have to be how long. Time is not the essence over here because you see, if you're not allowed to rip a piece of paper to wrap a piece of meat. If you do it, you also have chatas.
Can we distinguish between what the Rav is talking about, which is he's talking about one item, whereas, Rabbi just mentioned the point by Shlomo Zalman earlier, which is
I just want to say also that Shlomo Zalman does not talk about it. He said that Shlomo Zalman talks about in Israel the one that popped. He passed away 15 years ago, and just then it started, and that's sold, and it didn't make it then yet. So he talks about the ones in Israel, right? To have a one that pops.
He distinguishes between metal and plastic.
Right.
But is there a difference between the Zmoira, the vine is one piece, and it's one keli? Before Shabbos, they designate it as a keli. But here it's two different keli.
Yeah, so makes it worse.
There should be a difference.
But that makes it only worse.
But they're two separate things. So I'm taking one keli.
Yeah, but that makes it just worse, not better. Because if I have a keli, it's a little too long, I cut it off, you tell me I'm tikkun munah. It's a vine, it's usable, it's geschmack. I might cut off a piece, break off a piece, because it's a little too long, and that's called tikkun munah. When this is even more tikkun munah. That your reasoning makes it worse, not better. You understand?
So
because
the tuna can, for example, is less because it's one keli. You're trying to get
yeah, the tuna is not creating a keli. Let me go back to the tuna fish. Why? The tuna fish, the original machmirin was, if I grew up, I remember this, people would save tuna cans to put away, nails, how does it called, these screws and whatever it's called. They saved it for tchotchkelech. I never see that anymore. I haven't seen that here in America. I haven't seen, your construction. Ever see someone use a metal, leftover cans? Really? You see it in your industry? I never see it. So originally, 50 years ago, right after the war, when they talked about it, this was the worry. Today, as soon as you open a can, you throw it away. So everyone almost unanimously agree it's not a problem. The Moshe had a problem because he says in the tshuva written 50 years ago, people will put it away. It's a good keli. So if I plan to use it, or someone might come to use it, he created a kli because before it wasn't. Today, you throw it away. Even if you open, people right away will not store. I see the next generation. My children are taught in school about the health that don't even store it in a can. You pour it out in a can because a can somehow attracts bacteria. Point is, so a can you open up, it's made to throw it out. After you empty it, it's not a problem. So that's why it's not what do you want to say?
Does it matter if the keli could be used as a keli?
No.
Because
Even it could be used, doesn't. It's only if you use it. Just because you could doesn't make it into a keli.
Does intention come into play?
Yeah, it does, because we spoke about this. We see that if you don't plan to use it for a keli, if you take off the cup and you throw it away, it's not a problem. Remember, I spoke last week. That's why I have in my house a bunch of old caps. So in case the children forgot to open the soda, they open the soda and just throw it away, and it's not a problem. Because if you don't plan to use it, then it's not a kli. It's only if you plan to use it. Yes.
So you're not allowed, of course, to rip tinfoil off Shabbos.
That's for sure, also.
With teeth, without teeth.
It doesn't make a difference.
What if?
With teeth is a chiyuv chatas, probably without teeth is the rabbanon.
Need to tear it off the big roll?
No, you can't. No, don't make a difference.
What's he talking?
He's saying ripping it off. If you rip it off with the teeth, it's called teeth. You rip it off, you chayv chatas. If you just rip it off with your hand, chayv Mrs. Bezdin. That's the Rav says clearly. If you rip off a piece of paper, you made it into a kli, you chayiv chatas. So if you rip silver foil with the teeth,
And the teeth, why does that make it somehow?
that's a derech. No, for the teeth, it's surely it's a deraisa. But that's the normal way to do it.
So now the question is that like a vine? So let's say I decide I need to cover a pot. I didn't rip off anything before Shabbos, and so I leave it attached to the rest of the roll, and I cover it, and I put the roll in with the food in the refrigerator. Is that like a vine then? In that case, I could come to rip it
Yes,
later.
for sure. For
So then-
sure.
so
That's
you wouldn't-
mamish.
So you would not be able to
No,
actually
no.
unroll it, cover it. and leave it
Exactly. Very,
attached to
very.
it.
You're incredible. You're mamish. How you say in English? To the nail. Accurate compared. That's exactly comparison. That's a very good comparison. You shouldn't do it because if you do it, you'll rip it and you'll chayiv chatas.
I thought that when you open a can of tuna fish or any other can on Shabbos, you have to punch a hole
Yeah,
in the
that's.
bottom of it to make it.
No, but that's how everyone, this does it because that's how originally 50 years ago when the Tshuva Moshe came out, and that's how people did it.
So
Explain nowadays why it's okay. No one uses a can, a leftover can.
and that was the principle that you can't overturn things like that once it's.
No. That's when the Chazal, the Rabbanim made Gzeira. The Moshe based this on compared it to a Gemara because people, I remember very clearly, people used to save cans to put things, to store things.
The tubes like that can be changed.
That could be changed, but that's not the Rabbanim. That is how nowadays no one does it. At least here in America, no one does it.
But people have been poking holes for so long, doesn't that just become
No,
part of
no,
it?
no, no.
What about recycling? The bin, taking the food can.
Yeah, but that's not, it's going to be crushed. Yeah, it's not going to be, they don't use it. They're going to crush it and make whatever they make with it. I don't know what yes.
So we can assume that we can rely on the fact that in most cases, people throw these cans away.
Right, exactly.
But if there's some guy that likes to keep this is
Yeah,
not,
but we
this
don't.
is the exception.
It's so uncommon. You don't have to worry about it. So then last week people were asking me opening a bag of potato chips. Now this is very important. Let's just the potato chips is a problem when you open it up and you keep the bag as a bag to store chips. You know, and I went this Shabbos to look. I don't pay attention. So I went to Shabbos to see how the Gabba does it. He opens this big bag of potato chips for Shalosh Shudas. And I told him, this is what you do? I said, you're not allowed to open it. He opens it and leftover, so when you open a potato chip bag and you're careful to open it in a way that you should be able to store it, then it's a huge problem.
How can you open it when you're not careful to store?
If you just rip it, you don't want to, you just rip it open. You don't want to use it. You just use it. You can't use the bag. Right, you open it and you don't plan to use the bag and put it into a big plastic bag.
You don't rip it open, you just pour it out and throw it in the garbage.
Right, or you pour the whole thing into the bowl and just throw it into the garbage. And
But you can't use that bag.
yes, because my children know about it. And I asked my children, what did I ask them this Shabbos? What do you do? They said, you told us already. We just pour it into the bin and we use this big plastic Ziploc. And that's where they put the leftover potato chips. So because by opening a bag carefully, you're really creating like a tuna can, and it's stored for a long time. And my children tell me, I didn't see it, but my children told me that you can buy potato chip bags that has a Ziploc with it already.
Is that okay?
You pay, no, that's not okay, because you're ripping the top and to make it into the, so you see that, if you pay a few more dollars, whatever it is, you don't have to get another bag. You could use it as a Ziploc bag.
What about Pringles? What do you do with Pringles?
Pringles is a what? Is a shaft?
It's a long, because that's
It's a shaft,
even
right?
before you've opened it up, it's clearly.
Yeah, but that again, that is a machlokes, and I'm explaining to you why Pringles, because you see a bag you rip, and the bag wasn't a bag really. It was. This was what's it called, a shaft, or what's it called? A cylinder. So it was a cylinder, if I remember well, and it has just a nice paper plastic glued on top. That was made to take off. I explained last week that something that's, why can you open Pampers? The famous question. Someday you open the bag of Pampers. I'm not, I'm just, the question, the Pampers itself used to be with, for the Velcro. But today everything is Velcro. Imagine. Anyway, so the reason it is, there is if I glue something to open immediately, there is a machlokes what's called kreya. And I said over, the Ramos says, and the Rav says it, do not tell this kula for Amaratzim. So imagine everyone who comes here is a Talmud Chacham. So there's a kula that since it's not made to stay very long, then you're allowed to open it up. It's because, the Pringles is made, the manufacturer couldn't care less if you buy it the next minute and open it up.
But it was made to last for a year.
No, but it's not made dafka for a year. It's made whoever buys it too. It's not that I want to seal it and I'm going to put it away now for a long time for next week. They sealed it and they couldn't care less. Tomorrow it's sold and never opened.
Chips? Why doesn't it apply to chips?
So the chips is really the way I explained it. It's a bag. It wasn't a cylinder, a bag. It was open. The machine makes it into a bag. The machine cuts it the way I was explained. So it was never really a bag. Number one. Number two, if you would open it when it's glued, you're right, but you don't open it when it's glued. See, over here, this was a piece of paper glued and you open it. You open it in a brand new place because the heat closes it down. And now you open it.
No, you said good last week. You said people are confusing tikkun mana and kereya. Not to confuse it.
Right.
Now today was only for kereya and not
Today,
for
correct. There's another aspect to this. If it's made, Yeah, but if you use the bag to eat slowly, I'm not convinced it's not a problem. A potato chip bag. You know what I'm saying? You made it to eat slowly. Let me explain what the rabbi said here. What?
The cereal bags are the same thing, but you open along these.
Yeah, let me come back. See, I explained last week. I want to explain something that I explained last week. There's three things we have to have in mind opening something. One halacha is what we're focusing on now, tikemana, that I create a keli. Tikemana means I made a keli. I made a vessel. Doesn't mean a table I made. Just the fact, like we had over here, I have a vine, it's not so comfortable, I can use it as a hook, I snipped off a small piece, it's called tikemana. Opening the soda bottle on top, I snipped it off from the top of the bottle, I created a vessel, that's called tikemana. That's one thing. There's another thing about kreya, ripping. One of the Lamates Malachas is called ripping. The Rav has a huge chiddush, which the Mishnah argues. He says there is no kreya on leather, plastic, paper. That's the Rav's chiddush. Not everyone agrees. The Pri Chodesh disagrees, and many disagree, but the Rav is soisim that way. And the Biruluch also disagrees, but the Rav's shitta is that if you're ripping a piece of paper, there's not korea. Ripping something else, your shirt that is made from threads into a cloth, or you're ripping a seam, that's korea. So ripping a piece of paper is not korea. So ripping a bag, because you're ripping it, that's not the problem. The problem is the focus that you created a keli now. Tikemana. So if the bag was, if you rip in a new place, it was very well sealed. Some are very, very well sealed. That's you don't open it. You mamish that's so well sealed. Then it's called tikemana. By ripping, you're opening a thing. So now what do you say? It's called the box, the cereal. Right. Now, second thing is korea, tikemana, and mechatach. If you cut it on a certain Mechatach means if you have in mind to measure it. I want to cut this, let's say toilet paper. I want to cut it in a perforated place. That's why they want to measure, then there is kreya. That even by paper will be kreya. Mechatach, I'm sorry, by chatach will be. So if I measure, I want to cut silver foil, I just want 5 inches. And I cut silver foil with the, what do you call it, with the teeth. So then two malachas I'm doing. Tikemana and mechatach. Because I wanted exactly this much. If you don't care how much, there's only tikemana. But if you do care how much, there's another malacha mechatach. So now let me just talk about the cereal box. A cereal box that's sealed glue, you'll notice, if you open it the right way, it's easy to open. If you open upside down, you're going to rip the whole box because it's so well glued. They only glue it on top so that you can easily open it. So again, that's the case. Then, and I explained before, when the Shiurim says if you glue something to open it right away, then there's really a machlokes, and if it's a halacha mitzvah. So the cereal company, when they glue the box, the top of the box, they glued it to open it as soon as someone buys it. There's no limit. So according to this, they'll be okay. Now, if someone asked afterwards, how about the plastic inside the
box and tikkun one.
What?
It doesn't address tikkun one.
But it was a box. It is a box.
So there's no kreya.
And there's no tikkumana.
Why not?
It was a box.
Okay.
It was a box. It folds it. It's folded like the Pringles. A box is a box. Unless someone could find me on the internet. No. I understood it always done that way. It's a box.
And what about the bag?
A bag is a problem. So you have to rip it without...
Cereal, you have to rip it at where it's glued together.
No, you can rip it anywhere. My Tauber saying that you can even rip it there.
No, it's talking about the bag. I don't know how I never paid attention. The bag...
It's glued together, but when you open it up, you're supposed to pull out the lip, and that way it opens with a glue. It doesn't rip. You don't cut it. You don't want it to spill out.
Yeah, but how do you, if you open the box, the cardboard box, the inside is a plastic bag, no?
Yeah, but it has a glued on top. The two pieces are glued together. And you open it along those glues.
You shouldn't, well, it's very well sealed. How is it?
But it's made to open like that. I mean,
Yeah, but it's sealed enough that it's
So that's only good for kreya, but not for tikkun one.
I'm not sure, not... Yeah, I'm not so. To me, I remember it looked like a potato chip bag, very well sealed. It's extremely well sealed.
Most of them have a little, like, a lip at the top where you can just pull it out, and it's made so that
It's got a seam that pops out. You still have to, it still takes some effort.
It's koyach, yeah. They have
If I remember, it takes a lot of koyach. It's not when the children do it, they mess it up.
Yeah, they can. So it's the same. So the issue is, if there's a little cut where you're supposed to actually peel, you're not allowed to do it like that, or can you do it like that as long as you rip the whole bag apart?
If you have to rip the bag apart.
So you can't use the
No.
manufacturer.
That's perforation, you can't do that.
No, you can't do
You have
that.
to go from an oblique angle, and you have to just
Rip it up exactly.
Oh,
That's
if
serious,
you
everywhere.
don't, if you don't rip off the bag, then you are Hilchon. Then you make
Right.
So the next question is, I asked somebody, are you allowed to use another implement to open something difficult to open? Let's say a scissor.
You're allowed to use a scissor.
So I can open scissors to open a box.
You're allowed to use a scissor. A scissor is a kedish machta is that it's a gufa mekoyim. You're allowed to. You're allowed to take over the dress. Dry cleaners, or a dress comes with a tag. You forgot to cut it off. You're allowed to take a scissor and cut it off.
So how do you open a milk carton without making a spout, or does it matter?
Which type of a milk carton again?
Like they have for the mocha mix, they have the cardboard thing where you have to open. So you have the glue on it, and then so you have two issues. You have the glue, and you have the spout you're making. So
Oh, you still have those old ones? Yeah, they still exist.
Was there a problem with those?
They exist.
See, the Moshe claims, I saw someone bring down this inside of Moshe, that he talks about that he had in his time. He says that it's very, very well glued. Therefore, he says it's making a new Pesach, he says. And the orange juice you plan to put back, you keep it for a while, and this is done, or the mocha mix as you explained. So then he holds that it's a problem because you made a Pesach. Because we later learn, hopefully, Hilchos Pesach, something is made. That's what he claims. It's made for a long usage and it's very well sealed. But nowadays the orange juice doesn't come that way. It has and that plastic is glued on it and it's made to take off. It's not a problem.
What we did the scissors. We just cut the whole thing so there's no spouts anymore. We made an opening.
We want to know what you have to do. If you can open it.
Can you do that? That's the question.
Again, to me, it seems that it's so well sealed. Those ones, you shouldn't be able to. They'll be open it.
Even if you pierce it from the side.
Right, pierce on the side, it's okay. But it's.
So you can pierce it from the side and pour out that way.
Right.
And still keep it in that vessel and put it back in the refrigerator. Or do you have to pour the whole thing out into another vessel?
That is a huge machlekes. We'll get later on when you're making a hole in a vessel, if that's called a hole. We'll later learn it. That there are who hold. They hold the opening up. Let's talk about a soda can. If you're allowed to open a soda can, the reason you're allowed to open a soda can, because you're allowed to make a hole in the keli. Because you're not. Your intention is not it should go in and it should go out. The intention is not that to make a whole air should go out. Your intention whole to just to pour everything out. Okay? So since that's your intention to pour everything out, then it's not a problem making a hole. You're allowed to drink a canned soda. Use a canned soda. You're allowed to drink from it.
But you're not.
But that
use all the mocha mix.
a mocha mix. I have to look at it again.
Today's mocha mix is like the orange juice.
Is it also that the can of soda, when you open it up, it's not a usable keli afterwards?
Right. It's only made. It's not a usable keli. No one uses it. It's only made to pour it out. It's not made to reuse.
You could drink and put it back in the fridge.
Yeah, but it's not made because it's not made to use. Not made to store. It's not. It's made to drink it immediately.
It's less than the potato chip, like you're saying.
Right. The truth is, all these halachas are thin ice.
Right? You're being rewarded by way down.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's very thin. It's very, very. But that's why I tell people the best is part of preparing. But Baruch Hashem, today prepare Shabbos is this. Things go so easy. No one has to chop wood. Shulchan Aruch says the men have to do something for Shabbos. They should chop the wood. The Gemara says that Rabbi should chop the wood. One clean the fish. One sharpen the knives for Shabbos. If a knife is dull, it goes straight into the trash. So I tell myself, the little bit I do for Kuvut Shabbos, my wife kicks me out of the kitchen. There's nothing. There's nothing. I'm surrounded by girls anyways. So what? So much I do is I make sure the sodas get open, the bags. If the grandchildren come, I tell tell my daughters, make sure the bags open, and there shouldn't be a problem. All right. The only question also comes if sometimes you buy a pair of socks. Sometimes you have a pair of socks, they have a stitch together. So that is two opinions in Shulchan Aruch. According to one opinion, you're not allowed to cut it open. According to one, you're allowed to, because that stitch was made that you shouldn't lose it as soon as you buy it, as soon as you manufacture it tomorrow. They don't mind if someone buys it and cuts it open. The same thing as I said before. So it's two opinions. So according to one opinion, you're allowed to. And I mentioned that the Rav says, the Paskin, you're allowed to, but please don't tell it to Amratzim. That's what he says. That's his words.
But that's Korea.
Yeah, it's Korea, but it's some Korea that's made for very temporarily. That's not called Korea. No, but that's two opinions. Did you make a copy of that one? No, I don't think so. We'll make a copy of that page. I'll hopefully get to it. It's brought in the middle of Akshira. Right. So it is both. Again. It says in Shulchan Aruch that if you sew things together, to open it up immediately, there's two opinions if that's called kreya, or ripping or not. So the socks that it's tied there, so one opinion holds it's not a problem because it's made as soon as you get it to separate it.
Well, you didn't sew it for the sake of using it that way. You sewed it so that.
Right, but the question is, that's the two opinions. If I sew something to open immediately, if you're allowed to do it or not. So the best is to do it before Shabbos. But if you got stuck, then you're allowed to.
Post-it note, you're allowed to stick on a stick.
There are many are very machmer post-it notes. And I am not machmer because I say, if you put a post note to stay there for a long time, I put a post note and, I want, maybe 5 minutes later I'll use it again.
What do you mean by post-it note?
This.
I'll mark on it.
So
It's adhesive.
this. So the mail, if let's say I put this into right here, Shabbos, and I don't plan to use it the next week. So it's made, I was teufer for next week. But what happens if it's not true? I never know. I might just, and if you if you know that you're not going to use it till next week, then then you shouldn't use it. So I want to tell you, be honest, all the kitzurim, all the teaching in the schools, can I say kitzurim in English? The shorthand
synopsis.
Yeah, when they teach in the schools and the girls' schools, I see my daughter, they all say, do not use Post-its. They don't explain why, but that's really what it is. It's made, if you're afraid, I may put it in for long time use. Let's say, you're studying something and leave it there for a long time. Well, it's teufer. If you glue things together for a long time, it's called teufer. Okay.
I mean, it is by its background, it was glue, but it was glue that was when they found it was glue that didn't work. It was literally low grade glue, and they came up with an idea to use it for these Post-its because it doesn't glue.
It does. It does stay. It stays a long time.
But it doesn't stay permanent, does it?
Doesn't? It doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be 10 years, but these last a year.
But even if it's not last year, it's not going to be stuck at any time. So it's not like glue, which glues something together. It's actually, that's what he's saying. It's not like glue which glues something together and holds it and it's stuck and you have to cut it off. This, you can.
So what? So it doesn't. I don't think.
That's the function of this.
Yeah, this is function of this glue. I mean, they talk about such a thing, but tefillah. I mean, we can on everything. When we hopefully get to tefillah, we'll see there's a long conversation. They used to have, because of the cold, they still have it. I see some codes, but today it's done differently. They would pull a string and it would close. You know what I mean? And Shulchan Aruch talks about it has to be big holes, but if it's tiny holes, it's like a tefillah. We'll get to it. I mean, you know, it's a long conversation about that. Yes.
Why is it supposed to know like sewing?
The tolda of sewing is gluing two things together.
Oh, it's gluing.
Right. If I take two pieces of paper and glue it, that's called the tolda of teufel.
From a bonding. Not
Bonding, right. But the tolda of sewing is bonding. The av malocha is sewing, and every av has a tolda, means has a offspring. The offspring of this malocha is just like you sew two pieces of cloth together. So if you glue two pieces of paper together, that's called the tolda of. So Mamela here, I took this paper and I sewed it together. Now the question is very temporarily. Now, if I know I might take it off, then it's not a problem. But what happens, you know, this will stay another 5 weeks.
The sewing is av, that's the first, and then
The
the
tolda,
bonding
right.
is the next.
Right. No, it's a deraisa. So it's a deraisa. The question is, but if it's done very temporarily, there's opinion that said it's okay.
What determines temporary?
That's a very good question, and we'll have to learn the whole thing later. What is called temporary, what's called, we'll learn later, Mitzvah Shem, about that.
Is it up to the person's Shabbat?
I think how long you want it, exactly. We'll later learn about it.
The plastic containers, you like Kobos or plastic containers, you have to pop off this little plastic piece and then you have your top is detached. Can you use those at jobs?
What type of plastic container? I don't know.
It has a little, it has
Your
a
sealed
plastic
cover,
top, sealed
security
closed,
tab.
and it has a little plastic tab you have to pull off like that, that's attached to the top and the bottom. Once you pull that off, you can take the top
And what do? You rip it off from the top and bottom? What happens?
You throw that piece away,
throw that piece away.
and then you put the plastic top back on.
No, it's not the plastic piece.
Well, no, but the cover that was on
But the
before.
cover is the hard plastic cover, and the hard plastic bottom, which is holding, is attached, and it has this plastic piece.
And you rip off a
You have
piece,
to rip off this piece, and you can take off the top.
and before that you couldn't do it well.
Before they can do it.
So that's what we've learned before. It's the same thing. This should be also.
I'm saying,
Yeah, that is a problem. Where do you see this tab? Why am I?
the big Clovis containers, the Shoals bucket, they all have that.
Ah, I know what you're talking about. Some the big buckets have that. You're right.
They're like the big pickle buckets or the big.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
Since they're plastic, can you break it with a knife so you're not?
Yeah, or you don't have or if you break it off, throw it right away.
But then you make the top.
No, if you throw it away the top.
No, you don't throw it,
I'm saying if you have a mind, but it's not going to help unless you have other tops. Because if Gzeda, maybe you will not throw it away. So if you have many tops, right? Yeah, you have to remember this is very common. This is not so. This is a real serious problem. You know, Baruch Hashem today we don't have.
gonna go hungry, so here's our problem.
Yeah, but you have children in Nash and they buy all these bags and all these things. It's,
Finish the nash quicker than we eat the can of soda.
Those milk cartons are the same as the soda cap, the one, the plastic milk bottles that have a little ring you pull off around it, and there's a cap you take off.
That's the same problem.
Same thing as soda.
Same problem. Yes, I forgot all about it. The milk carton, this way you rip it off, and that's almost the same problem.
Pry it off?
Yeah, but if you rip it off, it's a problem.
No, look, you can pry it off.
You could pry it off with the attach. Yeah, you could do it. You could pry it off.
And you can put it back
You
on.
could pry it on because you didn't rip anything.
So why can't you do that with,
You could do it with anything. Just people don't do it. People just rip it off.
but you can pry off the cap and it's got the little trick thing on, so long as you can.
If you pried it off, you use it. But the problem is that people don't pry it off. You just rip it off. Most people, even Shabbos, don't know this and just rip it off. So I think someone asked last week, so what happens if you are makpid and someone's not makpid that opens it for you? So, that's...
Remember Tarsem is doing that.
Isn't that the vine issue though? You've got the cap and you pried off. Isn't that, you should not?
The pride of a cap, you didn't do anything. When you rip it off, that's when you created a good cap.
Is the status of the vine.
Right.
So you shouldn't have anything to do with the cap. You're not
No.
supposed to touch the vine.
Well,
If you pry it off, it's fine, you can use it.
Oh, that's what you mean. You shouldn't use it because well, yes, you're right. That's what you mean. You're talking about I shouldn't do it because You know, you're thinking here. You're right. You shouldn't even pry it off. What he's saying, you shouldn't even pry it off because just like by the vine, you might snip it off. Here too, if you're going to take it off completely, you might rip it off. You're right. What did you say?
You can pry it off, you still can't put it back on.
That's you shouldn't even pry it off because the Xera you might just make a hole into it. Make sure you ruin it. Make a hole into it.
No one found any questions on Shalom yet. Here's the Baruch Hashem. Can have milk, can have chicken, potato chips, the Machal Shabbos we can eat. Kugel, you can eat Shalom so far, we can eat. Baruch Hashem. We're doing good, Chef.
Just open the can before Shabbos, eat those.
We don't need to.
Okay. Any other question?
So the foam again, back to the foam bag, the foam cups. So if I rip it, I have to take all the foam out and throw the bag?
Yeah, if you rip it, here's a good question.
Completely, because we talked about food all the time. What about things like
If you rip it in a way that it's going to be a keli, it's a problem. Right.
It's a keli anyway, so if you rip it to get one cup.
No. He's saying, let's say you have the bag, right? So if you rip it very nicely at the edge, so that's right now you created a nice bag, a nice to store it. That's a problem. Okay. All right, let's learn. We're up to Nin Vuv. We're up to page Tuf Nun Ches. Taf Nun Chet. One of the things I want to make something light of it. One of the questions people always ask, which I don't have an answer. I really don't. How could you wear a sheitel? Really, the sheitel, you look a lot better in the in the sheitel than. You ask every average young man will tell you your wife looks a lot prettier in the sheitel than. Yeah, so that's a big question. What the heck it is, I don't know. Because in the good old days, you see the pictures of the old sheitel. It looked like a mop. It looked like a mop. You know how it looks in the times of the Gemara? It was. If you remember how they used to keep the sroigim in that's the material how the Gemara talks about. They would make a hair. They put on the head to look like you have hair. Imagine. That's why, all due respect, the Svardim are very machmed. The Svardim are extremely.
Cover the hair, or does it not look pretty?
The truth is, you want to know the truth? My wife wears a sheitel, and I told her not to. She doesn't listen to me. But the truth is that a woman that, Hitler Yamach Shemam, let me just say, knew how to desecrate the woman. He went and had all the woman's hair cut off. A woman without her hair looks terrible. That's the Metzias. She looks very attractive with her hair. So now, by putting on a sheitel, we defeated the purpose.
So what's better? Is it better to show a little bit of hair here?
No.
Or to wear a sheitel?
Well, in the Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to wear a sheitel, clearly.
No, I'm saying what's halacha?
Halacha, it's better to wear a sheitel than to show the hair. That's for sure.
So oftentimes it happens that
No, if they would do it correctly. No, if they do it correctly, no. It's because they're lazy to do it the right way. I mean, a lot of sneezing women do it correctly. I have in my neighborhood a few Svardim who are very makadon. They do it twice. There's a few Svardim I notice in my neighborhood who do it just they have hair, but if you do it right. In Yiddish, there's a saying, Jews always become creative and figure out a way. There's always a way.
Only circa 3,000 years. We agree that women without hair are not so, why is it that there's a whole group of Jewish women that think that shaving their heads is okay?
I don't know. I'll be honest, for 30 years trying to figure out. The Shulchan Aruch says if a woman cuts off her hair, she's over Issa Daraisa. That's still Bashgever. So the Chassidish Elchonon, there's a law in the Torah, you're not allowed to do, cross-dress is called? A man is not allowed to make himself feminine, and a woman's not allowed masculine. So one of the things a woman's not allowed to do is cut off her hair. So the Darke Tshuva, who was a Chassidische, asked the question, so how come the Chassidische woman, certainly only not all Chassidim, this is not true all Chassidim, it's only sort of the Polish, not even the whole Polish, it was more the Interland, Hungarians, Romania it was. Yeah, that place, so Satman, Romania, not even the other places. So he asked the question, how come they do it? And he has very weak answers. And a man, wants his wife to look pretty for him. A woman has to look good for her husband. Your wife's femininity belongs to you, not for anyone else. The most important. So, I don't have an answer. The Gemara says, let me tell you Gemara in Masechtas Nozir. The Gemara says, if a lady said she wants to be a Nazira, so she already kept the whole Naziris, she already brought a carbon, and now she has to cut off her hair, the husband could be made for the neder, because he says, I cannot have a wife who cut off her hair. I don't like it. So he has a right to be made for the neder, the Gemara says.
Are they doing it because of the chatzitza?
No. That's sneeze. Original sneeze. There's nothing wrong with chatzitza. Chatzitza, you just wash your hair out. There's nothing. It's not a chatzitza.
There's no chatzitza possibility if you shave your
Yeah, but that's not the reason. That's a mistake.
Cut off your hand and they want to.
There's no. Ezra, no. Ezra, no. But let me explain why. No. Let me explain this. This is a lot of people think that many writers write that that's the reason. Let me explain this. Ezra was masakin before a lady goes to the mikveh to choife for hair. Choife means to comb her hair. The whole chafifa that a lady has to prepare herself for the mikveh was based on one thing: she should not have a chatzitza. It's not the body washing so much that it was added, because I always tell people that Kimches was zoichet to have 7 children kahanim gedolim. So the Gemara says the beams never saw the braids of her. So why did she have braids? Why did she cut her off? She had braids for her husband. So didn't we just walk around without I say Uda Merishan. Let me just tell you an interesting Gemara. Uda Merishan, before he sinned, he didn't have a Yetzer Hara. Sex was not a Yetzer Hara. It says the Ramban al in the Zohar. Before Uda Merishan ate from the tree, intimate was like putting on film. That's how the Ramban says. Imagine, there's no Yetzer Hara. The Rabbi Shalom took Chava, Malamed, Shekili HaKadosh Baruch Hu leChava. The Rabbi Shalom braided Chava, and he brought it to the Merishan. So the Mashu says a very cute question. Why did the Rabbi Shalom have to braid Chava? When the Rabbi Shalom created Chava, she must have been geschickt. You know how you say geschickt? She must have been she was a hairdresser, musician, anything that you can imagine. Why? Because the Gemara says you don't make such a good job on yourself as someone can make it on you. So the Rebbeinu Shem wanted that Chava should look perfect. He braided her hair. The Rebbeinu Shem held the braids is beautiful for a lady, brought it to Merishan. There was no other lady. You want your wife to look pretty. There's other women around. You want yours to be pretty. There's no one around, and there's no Yetzer Hara. It wasn't like wow. There was no wow. That's what it says. There was no wow. It was like putting on film. Still, the Rabbi Shalom, braided himself Chava to look beautiful in the Merishan. So that's what you see just from the Gemara. So I don't know why. I have no idea. I don't want to mock it. It's who am I? But I never understood it. But the other way is that in Halacha, really, theoretically speaking, today's sheitlers, a goy teacher told my friend in school, he said, I don't understand what goes on with these ladies. I teach the girls, as a math teacher, that as soon as they get married, they wear these stunning wigs and they look like who knows what, like models. He says, I thought, once you're married, you got to look pretty for your husband. What happened? The girls should look pretty before they get married. They have to attract the man's attention. People don't know this. Do you know that a girl doesn't cover her hair when she's single because she should look attractive? The reason you're supposed to cover it is now I am only for my husband. I am a man. Your wife's femininity belongs to you, not to show off to everyone how she looks. Unfortunately, we live in a generation which people have a hard time to accept this.
Do you think part of the halacha is not look attractive
Yeah, there's a famous Baal Musa called Rabbi Victor Miller. So someone told me, and there are tapes about. Someone told me that in his tapes he says, your wife shall look when you come home like you're going to a wedding, and when you go outside, she should put a house coat on. That's what he says, because today it's an upside down world, and people are, the truth is, men go out to work, and the woman dressed pretty and come home, and your wife is not so attractive. It causes a problem. Someone gave me an article written by a famous family therapist, a guy, so many years ago. He said why television watching is terrible for the marriage. This is a guy, not a yid. When a guy says it's bad, then it's bad or bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he says why? He says because at night you're going to bed and you're watching the TV, and everyone there, the women are dressed stunning with a ton of makeup. Now you're supposed to go and be with your wife. This is a guy saying, he disturbs the marriage. He tells people come to him, no TV 2 hours before bedtime. And he writes an article. That's what he writes. I'm just saying it's a fact. It's a fact of life. We men are very visual. That's who we are. That's how Hashem made us. If I'm on the subject, when I went to make the mikveh up north, and had to help them fix a mikveh up north, so they asked me to speak to them, and the whole congregation came, had a bunch of questions. So one lady was giving a hard time why the mechitza is so tall, you can't look. So I said to the lady, I want to explain to you something. The reason we need a mechitza, not because of you, because I have a problem. I have a terrible yetzer hara. You women don't have a yetzer hara. We men come to shul and we see an attractive lady, we like to stare. That's how we are. The Rebbe Shalom made two things. He makes men want to look, and make the woman, he created them, they want to be looked at. So women figure out exactly how to be looked at, how much preaches to catch a person's eye. But the problem is we have a problem because we are very visual. Don't take it so personally. They took it so personally. Chitz is high to keep us. The truth is, in the Goyische Welt, even though it's amazing, they don't understand what a man is, what a lady is. They mamish don't understand. There's nothing. We need a mechitza because we men have a problem. Women don't have a. Women don't look at men and it means nothing. We have a problem. There is no heter. No, but there is no heter. There is really no heter. Yes, das Yehudis. A woman has to cover here. A woman has to cover. According to, I will mention it again. According to the Shiurim, a woman cannot walk with see-through stockings. He says very clearly the shoik is that way. And a woman cannot wear a V-neck. It has to be covered. This is covered till the elbows, and these are clear halachas.
What about a fall?
Fall is, what is a fall? Showing here, your own hair. In the own, till here is the own hair? What does a fall mean?
Well, they wear a hat.
You comb your own hair back.
That's no, you're showing your own hair. That's no good.
And the question I think the difficulty is what's the purpose of covering your hair? Because if it comes down to the femininity is for your husband, then
I don't have an answer. This is the.
It doesn't change for a lot of change.
Yeah.
If Sarah Isha Erva, then just covering Erva is already an accomplishment.
Yeah, no, but that's why people, what you're asking, I heard this from a woman. I have sometimes women call up, the husband's giving them a hard time, and they say, well, I look much pretty with the shekel, why can't I pull out some of the hair? I've heard this argument from ladies. I just tell them, that's what the boss said. There's nothing to argue.
Could a woman take her own hair and make a shekel?
Yes, she cuts it off and makes a shekel. It's not attached to your head. That's what it is.
I'll be talking about two different things. One is the femininity. The other is I've heard some Kabbalah about what a woman's hair actually is and what it actually represents. And when it's attached to the head and she gets married, you cover it up for spiritual purposes. So the fact that she happens to be more feminine and more attractive with the shaitan is a totally separate issue.
No. The reason the hair has to be covered, it's very simple. We men are very visual, and it catches our eye. You see a lady covered with the tichel, it's not so attractive. You know, it's the reality. The hair makes, you ever saw a woman cut off hair totally? That looks terrible. You know, even though maybe it just looks terrible. The reality is a woman with a full head of hair makes her very attractive. That's the reality. That's why she has to cover it. It's very simple.
But every mitzvah has spiritual.
But that's we halacha. We never go in the spirit of spiritual. It is true. In Zohar has a whole arichas, and the Zohar says horrible things. The Zohar says if you want to have healthy children, if you want to be wealthy, make sure your wife's hair is not seen in the house. That's the Lashon Zohar. I tell people that eat pita baktoris become wealthy. You want wealth, you want healthy children. The Zohar says, make sure your wife's hair is not seen in the house. You will be blessed with wealth. And the Rabbi brings it down also in Hilchos Krishma, quotes the Zohar.
A lot of women cut their hair short so it fits in.
Shaitel, right.
I mean, not all like this.
That's okay. You know, it's all up to the couple what they want.
Then you're defeating the purpose.
I
This
don't-
is the whole Allah's purpose. You're defeating the whole.
Exactly. This is what I don't understand myself. I don't. That's why the Sfardim, all due respect, the Sfardim were moiridig machmer. Do you know that the Sfardim, no one held through generations that you're allowed to wear a shaitel. The Sfardim were moiridig, they didn't make a bracha in front of a shaitel. From the Chodesh Brit Toyer, from all, the Sfardim was very, very, very chomer. All the Ashkenazim, you know, lived amongst the Goyim who were, the test was too great. But the Sfardim and Meshunadi, Rabbi Yosef screams. I always like when the Sfardim quoted Rabbi Yosef. So he says, "No, does your wife wear a shaitel?" Well, I go, you know, he's Meshunadi, and Rabbi Yosef screams dozens of times.
For the Erech, the Muslim countries, they're also modern. They don't wear a burqa.
Yeah, but just saying, I'm explaining because he says by the Sfardim they never were makel to wear a shaitel because they held it defeats the purpose. Exactly what he says. That's what his argument is.
In the 1700s, the men used to wear shades.
Well, in England, the judges still wear shaitel, no?
It's not very fair. So according to the Sephardic halacha viewpoint on this, would it be usher for women to cut her hair?
Oh, women could cut.
Like you said, some women cut their hair short just because it's more comfortable. They're covering their hair the whole time. They go more comfortable. It should seem that a woman she has to make her hair as beautiful as possible.
You don't have to, no. Just the question is a woman, according to a Sfardim, are not allowed to wear a shaitel, period. That's what it is.
If a sheitel is meant to cover nakedness, right? So we wear shorts and jackets and skirts. Should we wear shmata? I mean, the thing is you're not going out. The point is to cover your erba. It's not to look ugly.
You know, what happens, I don't know if I should say it on record, but I'll do. What happens if a lady decides to wear clothing that just looks nude? It's a shirt, but it has the picture of her, everything. Doesn't it defeat its purpose? Right? So the shaitel is the same problem. You defeated the purpose. Now, I am dressed. Yeah, but you got a picture of everything there, and everything looks like so real, and you defeated the purpose. Certain things in Golas, I want to tell you an interesting Rambam. The Rambam in Perish Mishnayis in Masechtas Gittin says a very profound thing. The Rambam says if you learn the Gemara, Talmud Chochem has to be oile before a kohen. That means about the Aliyahs, the Rambam says, I looked around, I see always the Kahanim have the Aliyah first. The Rambam says there's a city, quotes the name of the city, I don't know where it is. And the words of the Rambam is, I'll say in Lushan, Sheripi Atzmam Mikol Choyle HaMenhugim. That city healed themselves with all sick menhugim. The Rambam's poetic way. Means Rambam says, traditions get sometimes amongst the Jews, whereas it really doesn't make sense. Yeah, absolutely not. One day Mashiach will come and he'll just wake us up. Shaitel? What is a shaitel? We'll look at ourselves. You know, it's like people look back in history. How could people, take a human sacrifice? One day people can look back at this century and says, how could you allow abortion? It's killing. We look at it, yeah, abortion. From people ask me about abortion, and not once and not twice. So I'm shocked. You know what I mean? I'm sometimes, but because we live amongst the Goyim, this is a minig, the sheitel. My humble opinion, which is really wrong. Mashiach will come. Like I tease, I say the Mashiach will come and tell everyone you have to daven Zman Tefillah, and tell all the people cut the beards. You're not allowed to cut the beards. Every group has their minhagim which got caught up. But really, Aaron, and if you really learn the halacha, it doesn't make sense. Okay. Any other question? Why are we on topic already?
Sounds like you're shaking. Maybe that's how we got
Yeah, that's what I got to it. The truth is that there's we bought the topic, but the truth is sneeze is very important. It's very, very important, and we live in a society where everything goes, unfortunately. But the person, there's nothing, a person has to figure out a way how to do this. But sneeze is a very, very, very important thing. It became neglected. It really does. Okay, Pishtim Sorik. He says, Rabbi takes Pishtim, which is comb, the Tzemim Nupish and Ostan Alamaki, put on a wound. Apish al Chushavleim Shia mi Chudel Mekusai, Ele Nichem al Mekusa derech Mikra. That means you're talking about Muktzeh. That you have see, but us raw flax is we don't do. See. Because we live in a society, you would only put a Band-Aid. You would never dream to take raw flax and put it on a wound. You rather would, take a bed sheet, but you will never take raw flax but they used to do this. So if you put it, he says it's not muktzeh, if you had a mind, or if you put it there, sir memeni l'alta, mit dem talte b'Shabbos, lit na makusa, you're allowed to put it in your market. Or l'tzorech ha'achat, you should do it in dark and yachten. All this is, I want to just explain, it's so not negaya. Because for us, all this is muktzeh. The Rab just says another important thing, which is brought down. You're allowed to put Band-Aid on a makkah because it doesn't heal, it shields it from the shirt that it shouldn't irritate it. So you're allowed to put it. Yeah, we're talking about health medicine, just simple Band-Aid. And you're not to open a Band-Aid. One of the questions people ask, just don't rip where the words is because it's made to be opened right away. Same reason, but you could open a Band-Aid, especially if you have young children, but a Band-Aid is it's not called healing. It's mainly called to put it on to shield.
So if it does have medicine,
Shadow you shouldn't use in Shabbos now, unless you're afraid of an infection. We are, our bodies is very prone for infection. Unless it has antibiotic, you're allowed to. You're allowed to dab antibiotic, and if you cut yourself badly, because infection could become extremely dangerous.
So you don't have to prepare it before Shabbos.
You could open it. Just make it. Just make sure you don't cut it where the letters are. You could open it and to use the Band-Aid that way.
It's not great, anyways. You're not planning on using it.
Yeah, right. But how about taking off the adhesive tape? That was made because I explained it's made to take off right away. So.
And is it better to actually apply the antibiotic to the wound as opposed to having
Yes, rather add it dab it onto the wound.
as opposed to having it on a Band-Aid?
Right, it's much better to dab it onto the wound. True.
So just
medically or
Halachically. Because if you put it on the Band-Aid, you're afraid, the Gemara says, you might make a surface. Mareach, the Gemara says. So you dab it on, but you're really allowed to, I used to be machem with infections, but I've heard children who got infected. I don't know what children more prone. Terrible. There was a child, I had in my shul someone who believes in the herb medicines, homeopathic. He had a simple infection in his finger. So I see Shabbos, it looks at my wife is taking care of it, okay. Thursday, he calls me up in the emergency room. He said, it started growing a red line. I said, what happened to homeopathic? He says, I don't know what happened. You know, many of this homeopathic medicine has not really no
Scientific basis.
right, no scientific basis.
So the Alter says we can open something that's meant to be opened right away,
Right.
but we shouldn't tell
Amaratzim.
So if a homeopathic medicine has such no basis, then
You can't do.
on
No,
Shabbos?
you can't.
No?
No, true. People ask me this all the time. So, you know, the people ask me all the time.
I think if people hold the victim help for them, then.
I don't know, but it doesn't. It's not a scientific thing. It's all. It's. I asked doctors who it says it's just.
I've talked to doctors too, and they're full of crap. Sorry.
No, but it's not based on medical science.
No, you're right.
It's based on theories, and it says in Hilchos you can't do Bechal Shabbos and Yom Kippur on things that people just they think it is. It's not medical science. It's just a theory.
To go off topic for a second on this topic, there are people in the communities who don't vaccinate their kids because they say they believe it's homeopathic thing, whatever it is. And they don't vaccinate their kids. As a result, their kid gets susceptible to getting those diseases, and they could possibly pass it to other people.
Like measles and
Like measles, for example. There was a recent spread of that because some people,
Mumps in New York was terrible last year because that's exactly they say that it happened. The children in New York, there was a terrible mumps outbreak. New York, Monsey, Lakewood.
Because people were questioned that these shots make them autistic. There was a rumor.
It wasn't a rumor. It was a guy.
whatever the case may be, there are people who are putting other people's children in danger by not doing it.
No, you're not allowed to do that. Person,
It's called a herd mentality, meaning everyone else is vaccinating, so therefore I'm not gonna, because it's eradicated anyway, and all the kids around me aren't gonna have it, I'm not gonna have it, so you have what's called a herd mentality. And kids pick it up and then they pass it to the rest of the
What's the question? So what's your question? Should they make another show, not controversial?
Well, that's why solo is.
No, but no. The question is a good question, a theoretical good question. What do we have a right to demand parents to do such a thing? That's always a question. I don't have an answer. I've thought about it often. Do we have such a koyach to demand, or
You take the parent to the toilet if
right?
one's child.
Probably there's no basis we could force them. There's really no basis. I thought about it many times. This concept of forcing people to do something because to keep the safe,
public safety.
right? It's not a bud. It's not.
The kid is a boy.
Yeah, it's not. He might get it and he might spread it. And yes, vitamins. Yeah, it's not. The problem is that. Let me explain about the vitamins. If you asked, I'll tell you. You're not allowed. Let me just explain something. You're not allowed to take pills. We live in a society. We pop pills all the time. You have a small headache, pop a pill. So someone told me, a pharmacist told me that every year they sell more. How's it called? Over-counter medicine for pain relieving. So you're only allowed to take medicine to conquer pain is if your whole body aches or you're in bed. Just because you have a toothache, a headache. I had last night a terrible headache. If it would have been Shabbos, I wouldn't take a medicine. I just had a terrible headache. I was able to function, just a terrible, annoying headache. Shabbos, you're not allowed to do it. Because Gezeda, the good old days, people make no medicines. Now the question is, how about vitamins? What is the basis of vitamins? There's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says, today became an illness, but the Romans, the time of the Gemara, they would eat, make themselves vomit, and eat again. The Gemara talks about it. The Gemara says, on Shabbos, if you want to vomit, you could do it with your finger, but you cannot take a medicine to make you vomit. So even though Rashi says it's not healing, Rashi says, but it looks like medicine. So if you learn that Gemara like that, vitamins will be also. So the Machminim say, you see clearly from the Gemara that vitamins is also, because the Gemara says, if you cannot make yourself vomit with a medicine. You understand? So, what do you say? The Gemara says that you could make yourself vomit two ways. Either way, let's say a guy has a terrible upset stomach, and to relieve himself will be vomiting. You could do it by putting your finger into your mouth. You're allowed to, but you can't take a medicine to make yourself vomit. So Gemara says, even though it's not healing, that's not a healing factor. So Rashi explains, because it looks like medicine. So the Machmirim say vitamins also look like medicine, but the others held that it is relieving a pain. You want to, it's doing something to your body. Vitamins it doesn't. So the Maisa, I am noitel hachmid, but if someone takes every day, our people have to take medicine every day. People take, just even medication. People have to take I recently was put on because, how's it called, for cholesterol medicine. So I take every day a pill. So once you take a medicine every day, you're allowed to take it.
So an antibiotic, which would be dangerous.
That's for sure. Antibiotic is no question. Antibiotic is always no question. The question.
Because you're taking it every day.
Well, what? That's based on the Rashba. The Rashba says if a person takes everyday medicine, he's allowed to take medicine.
So that's good for vitamins also.
So that's good for vitamins too.
But the whole issue is that you shouldn't take a mortar and pestle and
Right. That's a chazam. Once the chazam said it's also, we can't switch it. That's exactly.
not taking medicine.
Exactly.
Because you might come to.
The good old days, people made their own herbs.
Someone takes aspirin every day to take it on Shabbos.
That takes that every day, could take it Shabbos, but you cannot take just because you have a small headache. Take
Taking it for 3 weeks every day.
what do you say?
What if you're taking it for a short period of time?
What
every day? Like a prescribed medicine from the doctor every day.
Yeah,
for
that's
3
why
weeks.
antibiotic usually that way. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Isn't it chayil liberation?
Or a woman who takes the pill, since she takes it every day, it's okay. What?
Isn't it chayil liberation considered chayil the full group?
No. You can have a headache and you don't have to get into bed. I had a terrible headache last night. I didn't get into bed. Maybe it was the music at the wedding. I wish I knew what it was, but I just a terrible headache. That's all I knew. Wasn't.
Even if today you don't crush the medicine, just like today you don't use the tubing can,
But that, the reason the difference is what the Chazal, Sanhedrin Asad, we don't care what things change. It's like Cholovakim, we don't care things change. The Chazal said it's Asa. When we, apply Shulchan Aruch, things change and things change. That's the difference.
So anything that has any healing power to it, that's helpful for you. When you say like Tums, you have an upset stomach, you can't take Tums on Shabbos.
Right.
So it's anything that has a healing power.
Right. Correct.
Right. If it's bad for you, then
The reason you should be able to take, herbs, because it doesn't help. But the truth is, you're not allowed to, because the people take it, just believe in it like who knows what.
I mean, like, for example, medicinal tea. They have teas that have medicinal powers.
But it only works if you believe in it.
So does food.
Right, so I'm saying, what are we drawing the line?
Yeah, but it's food. Anything that people would drink, even though it's not medicine, you're allowed to.
Yeah, what if your kid's sick and you need to give him motion?
Children underage is okay, but we're not talking about children that young. Child who's 9, 10, 12, you should be for sure. Just because you got a headache is, but
Have 140
once you have temperature, it could be dangerous already. Temperature you have to bring down.
What about like somebody got an allergy, like you start sneezing a lot?
It depends how bad these allergies are. That
Well, I mean-
depends. There are people who are suffer terrible.
No, but it's just supposed to like, for example, like when I go swimming, like sometimes if the chlorine makes me, not on Shabbos, but I went on Friday, and then the reaction would happen on Shabbos. I started having a runny nose and very bad sneezing, like.
So how bad is it? Your whole body
It's very-
aches from it?
it's
Or
very
just very
annoying.
annoying that you're not allowed to take medicine?
Yeah.
Just because it's annoying,
It's annoying for the whole community.
that doesn't help.
The sneezing.
Is the liquid medicine okay?
No, the same problem. Doesn't make a difference. Chazal makes it clearly doesn't make a difference. Take my medicine the same halacha.
Liquid medicine and pill will be different when you get the kashrus you mentioned.
Kashrus?
Yeah, that if it's a pill, so it's not that a chachila, so that's better than liquid.
No, he wants to know why liquid medicine is. Yeah.
And for kashrus, why is a pill?
Yeah, kashrus is better. Today they say that some of the things they change the ingredients, cough medicines, because they put in non-kosher things. If you have young children, they put into the cough medicines lately non-kosher ingredient because they had to take out something because people use for drugs, teenagers, so they changed the whole ingredient and they put in something non-kosher now. But the truth is the doctors, the pediatricians don't believe in cough medicines anyways. They hold it has an adverse effect. I'm not talking about just talking about children's cough medicine. Okay.
I was looking at it, it said,